What is a leader on a mission? A leader on a mission is someone who is building a community of fractional leaders and shaping the future of work. Welcome to another inspiring episode of Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast, the show that empowers you to redefine the life you want and live your best life. Now, I'm your host, Francine Bailey, and in this season 10, we are delving into the theme of leaders on a mission, where we explore the personal journeys, impactful work of visionary leaders who are making a difference in the world. Today, I am thrilled to talk with Karina Mikhli, a pioneer in the world of fractional leadership and the founder of Fractional United, a rapidly growing community of fractional leaders. In our conversation, we delve into Karina's journey from a high school teacher to becoming a fractional COO and her innovative solution for optimizing workflow. You will also learn what fractional leadership is and what it is not, and the benefit of fractional leadership both for executive and organizations. So, what truly stood out was Karina's mission to create a supportive and collaborative environment for current and aspiring fractional leaders. So, whether you are an established business leader, an aspiring fractional executive, or someone looking to bring more meaning in your career, Karina's insights are surely going to inspire you. So, get ready to be inspired as we explore the fascinating journey of Karina Mikhli, and you don't want to miss this one. Let's dive in. Welcome, Karina.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I really look forward to this conversation. So, Karina, tell me, first of all, about your background and what did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh my gosh. Wow. So I started out actually as a teacher. I was a high school teacher, burned out on that because I was 19 years old teaching 14, 15-year-old girls, which was hard.
Yeah, I
Uh,
suppose so.
yeah. And fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately now, unfortunately then, I look younger than I am. So they didn't really take me very seriously.
They thought you
When
were
I
their pal, right?
Yes, exactly. So when I burned out on that, I decided if I couldn't teach the books I loved, I would go make them. So I spent 2 decades in the publishing industry on the content operations side. Got tired of all the reorgs and layoffs because of Amazon and digital. So fell
Mm.
into freelance, which then became or morphed into fractional COO work. And so yeah, and I was a personal trainer, so I've been a lot of things.
Ooh. Okay, so you were already a fractional before the fractional.
Yes, I guess so.
What else were you?
Um,
Outside of personal, I'm sure you were something else as well.
I don't know. When growing up, I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to be
Ooh.
an astronaut. It depended on what I was reading at the moment. So I think one of the great things about being fractional is you can be more than one thing, right? So you don't have to just be a fractional COO. Like I'm a workflow consultant. I could be a coach, mentor. You can try out different
Yeah,
hats all in
yeah,
one time.
yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, that is what I love actually. But this, although I'm just starting my journey in fractional, but book also like you was like part of my childhood. Really, like you can read book, you can want to be anything really,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
just open up your horizon, and yeah, so you can really become what you want to become. So tell me, Karina, what is one thing that most people don't know about you?
I before COVID and I restarted it recently, I performed dramatic improv.
Ooh, where was that?
In New York. So
Is there a YouTube somewhere we can find?
yeah. I discovered improv as a hobby like
Ah,
4 years ago, actually more now. My gosh, it's more like 7 years ago. Holy cow. COVID has distorted my perspective of time. It's blurs day and blurs year and blurs month. Like I have no concept of time anymore. But anyhow, pre-COVID, 3 years pre-COVID, I was looking for a creative outlets, a hobby that was very different than my day-to-day. And I read this book called Rest by who is it by? Alex Sujung Kim Peng.
Okay.
And there's a whole chapter there on finding a hobby that's work, like he's a chapter on rest and exercise, like all the typical things you do to recharge.
Yeah.
But he had a whole chapter on creative hobbies that work different muscles than your work do and allow you to kind of like fall into this like flow state where you lose track of time and recharge. And I remember when I finished reading it, like, I don't know, 4 years, again, 8 years ago. And I was like talking to my husband and son about like, oh, I need a hobby. And somehow, like, I live in New York, right? So improv came up because I had done it a little bit when I was like first working, in my 20s. And apparently my face lit up when I talked about it. So they're like, do that.
Okay.
So I found a free, like on a Sunday, one of the theaters in New York, Magnet Theater, gives you like this free session to try it out. So I tried it out, loved it, started studying improv like in all the theaters in New York. The problem is I'm not funny. So comedic improv was fun to take, but I didn't want to perform it. And somehow I discovered dramatic improv is a thing. It wasn't a big thing in New York back then. So like I'm used to running things and making things happen. So I kind of created my own group, found us a coach. We started rehearsing it, then we started performing it. Then I did the same thing for like a 3-prov and a 2-prov. So basically pre-COVID, I was either taking classes, rehearsing, or performing 5 out of 7 days because I loved it so much.
Really?
It was like I worked and then I did some improv to kind of like recharge.
Wow.
Then COVID happened. So obviously everything shut down, right? So improv became like Zoom prov.
Oh. Uh-huh.
So on the one hand, I got to study in Chicago. I got to study in California, places where dramatic
Yeah.
improv actually was a thing,
Okay.
which was great. I took all these like dramatic improv programs. So for the first year that, I did that on top of work. But performing Zoom prov wasn't as fun as in person.
Yeah.
Part of what made improv the joy it is that I got away from the screen.
Yes, that's true.
That I was in person,
Yeah.
no digital, no phone. You're in the moment, no homework, no mistakes. You're just, reacting and interacting and like forgetting everything else, right? So the exact opposite of like all the planning and prep and digital I have to do for work. So Zoom prov just became another thing I did on the computer. I made the hard decision of taking a break. And I basically for 3 years stopped doing improv at all. And I worked really hard to find like another creative outlet and I just couldn't find it. So a couple of months ago, I handed off the troupe to 2 of my team members. And one of them kept like WhatsApping me through the years. It's like, I didn't realize how hard it was, all the things you did behind the scenes. How do I do this? How do I do this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Leadership is hard, whether you're leading an improv team or leading a business. Leadership is hard, period. People make it hard, period. Long story short, they decided to fold the troupe because it was just too hard and whatever. So I told him, I'm like, if you would consider a 3-prov. So 3-prov is just a group of 3 and 2-prov is a group of 2. I'm like, if you would consider doing a 3-prov, let's talk because I'm considering. So fast forward, we started a 3-prov called Thrice the Drama. And yes, if you want to find the YouTube, it exists. We have one show on there. It was
Ooh,
my first time on stage in 4 years and 4 months. That's how long it's been, but it's been a lot of fun. It's
wow.
like it literally like it's the thing I was missing. It gives
Mm,
me that balance and
yeah.
that joy and that recharging. So
Wow.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that is very important what you just say, exercise is a different muscle that you do in your work is very, very important to find this kind of, not a balance, but this kind of other side to, that's really, really, really good. I need to think about that too, actually. I also try singing during Zoom time. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
I'll do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how your childhood has contributed to who you are today, in what you love doing in your work and, what kind of child were you?
I was a bookworm and
Were
a
you what?
nerd. A
What were you?
bookworm, a bookworm. I
Okay.
loved
Yeah.
reading.
Oh, like me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I know that one.
And I was an introvert even then. Like I had my friends. I actually had two groups of friends, come to think of it. I had the other like nerdy bookworms. And then I had a couple, I had an other group of friends that I don't know, that were a little bit more outgoing than I was, that we just, I don't know, connected on some other thing. But I was, I took karate. I had other hobbies even back then, but books has been a common denominator, books and learning. My parents, I was born in the Ukraine, so education was always, my parents were very strict, had high expectations of good grades, respecting your teachers, taking school seriously, right? Like the Eastern European
Yes.
mentality.
Mhm.
So that was formative,
Mhm.
continuous professional development, like
Mhm.
always learning, always striving, achieving, that was just, I think that's just part of my DNA, right?
Wow, yeah. I'm glad that I find somebody who can say that actually, because I actually as well, sometimes I wonder if this is a curse or this is a good thing to keep wanting to learn and learn and learn and learn. This is me, again, like you, I'll spend all my holidays in the library reading all the books that I could put my hands on, and yes, that never left me. I thought that one day this will stop. No, it seemed to be even worse now.
I do read a lot of fiction. I go through stages.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've gotten pickier about the nonfiction because I've read so much that it's like I've read enough about the topic. And also I'm very picky about like the writing style. Like it has to
Mm.
be engaging, you know
Oh,
what I mean? And
okay.
I do have to say AI has made me even more selective, because if someone tells me about a book, I'll go on Chat GPT and ask for a summary first to see if I want to read it.
Have you thought about writing your own book then?
I was a
It's
creative
going to
writing
come soon.
I was a creative writing major, but what I wrote was fiction. So I
Yeah.
don't know. There's enough books out there.
I'll predict that it'll come sooner than you think. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so tell me, one of the things that you say somewhere, I can't remember if you want a podcast or something that I've seen, is that again, I think that is very linked to this book thing. And then for some people, moving from one job, to the next might be seem like instability, in our, here in UK and everywhere, when you move from one job to the next, you are seen like unstable person, but from your perspective, this demonstrate competence. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So it's true. And, I probably did say this somewhere, like, if you look at my early experience, I was unfortunately, moving every 10 to 12 months. And I used to think that it was a me thing, something was wrong with me, right? Because every 10 to 12 months, either I would get bored and move on, get promoted, or get let go. Like, and I literally remember once being on a call with a recruiter, And I literally, when I got off the call with a recruiter, I called my husband in tears because I felt like it was death by a thousand cuts. Like he kept asking and like digging. And I was like, it was like a horrible experience having to explain every move, right? And it was, first of all, that was just, now I know better. Like that was a bad recruiter. You don't
That's
treat people like that. You don't
you
do,
thought it
I
was
would
you, but that was the bad recruiter, of course.
yeah, exactly. Like there's no reason to make someone feel like that, regardless. But after I started the community, at one point we had a conversation about, something related, and I realized it wasn't a me thing. A lot of fractional COOs, especially in other fractionals, have a similar experience where like we're just really good at what we do. And like most companies don't need us 40 hours. Like once we get in there, it takes X amount of time for us to just optimize the situation and run out of things to do. And then we're bored and this happens to us. So yeah, it's not a me thing necessarily or a bad thing. It's a competency thing. Unless you're a Fortune 1,000 or 5,000 where there's constantly things happening and you need somebody at our level for 40 hours, most companies don't. Like, we can get you may need us, like a lot of the time up front, but then once things are in place, you really don't.
I'm glad to hear that because this is exactly me. Me was like every 3 or 4 years, I have to jump from, and exactly as you say, I got bored, and things were not challenging enough as I want, and yeah, so, and then I thought also that it was something about me. And then I wrote my book called Personal Branding in the Digital Age, where actually in the pillar number 2, Master Your Expertise, I called this concept mimic, multiple experience, multiple expertise, and competence. That means that we have so many passions, so many curiosity, so many competencies that we also have acquired. I have diplomas and degrees in different things, unrelated things, but you just want to explore them, and then you do the job, and as you do it, you want to explore something else. So why should we stay in one job when we can go and explore many? So so this is why I so much resonated with what you just say. And I thought, oh, let's explore this actually, because yes, these become a competencies. As much as people say you have to be, digging into one thing forever, forever, forever. You don't need to, right? So this
It's
is
true.
fractional
Yeah.
is a very good new paradigm, I think, that is coming
Yeah.
now. Thanks to COVID, I think that has accelerated this.
Yes.
It was already a trend that I was seeing way, before. But COVID has accelerated this, especially with the Great Resignation and all those things. I've explored that in another season. Yeah, so that's definitely that. So now let's talk about fractional now. And let's start with some definition. For people who have been hearing us talking about fractional, say, what the hell those people are talking about? So because of course we are geek or we know about this word, but for some people still now, when I talk to people, they say, oh, haven't never heard about this. So can we define those words? You made a very useful table in Fractional United where you define the difference between interim, consultant, advisor. Tell us, explain that to our listeners. What's the concept of fractional and different traditional executive roles?
Yeah, so fractional in a nutshell is a part-time but fully embedded senior leadership role. So if you think about it in terms of, like you said, the differences, a consultant is brought in for a project, right? Even if it's a long-term project, and is expected to like deliver and move on. They're not embedded in the team. They're not really intended to be there past the project. They don't have people reporting to them. They don't represent the company, right? None of that. They're there for a project. Interim is embedded, but is obviously intended to be short term, right? Till someone replaces them. And an advisor or mentor or whatever is never embedded. Like they don't do the work. They're not part of the team. They advise. A fractional, so truly the only difference between, for instance, like a full-time CXO and a part-time CXO or a fractional CXO is that they are part-time. There is somebody in the community, a fractional COO, who only does 2 clients at a time, and his team doesn't even know he's fractional. Like that's seriously the only difference is you're not doing this full time and you have other things.
Yeah.
And the other things could be consulting or a founder or advisor or whatever you want. You're fully embedded, you have a seat at the leadership table, you have a slot on the org chart, you have people reporting to you, you represent the company, et cetera, et cetera. This is intended to be a long-term position. You have a job description, not a deliverable. You have accountability, all of that. So it truly is a part-time senior leadership role. You are part of the team.
Yeah. That's really wonderful. So tell me, what would you say are the pros and the cons to consider when you become a fractional CEO?
So the pros are that, you can do more than one thing. You have more say about what you do and who you do it with, right? And in this crazy day and age, once you get, hit your stride and have, more revenue streams or options, it actually in some ways is more stable than the traditional full-time, and here it's W-2, there it's called something else.
Okay. Yeah, it's pay as you go, pay as you earn, actually. The PAYE in the UK, actually.
Right. But whatever like the full-time, equivalent is,
Yeah.
it's actually in some ways more stable because, you can kind of see if and when one client is coming to an end because they no longer need you, like sometimes the company grows and they do need full-time. So you have the option of doing that or replacing yourself, right? And then moving on. So you see that coming, and then you have time to fill in one slot as opposed to going from 0 to 100, right? Where like you're full-time, that goes away, and now what? You have to replace all your income rather than one income stream. So there's a lot of pros. And also like, there are people in the community who want a better like work-life balance, right? So, you can work less hours, or if you're trying or starting to think about retirement, you can have one client and ease into retirement. There's so many reasons, right? And there's pros on the employer side as well, because as we discussed, unless you're a large company, you really don't need 40 hours of our time, right? You don't need that. And why should you pay for that? So if you're an SMB or startup or scale up, it's a multiplier. You get this level of expertise, at the right size, right? You don't have to pay for full time. The cons, the biggest con, well, before I get to the biggest con, one of the cons is that you have to be in business for yourself, right? You have to figure out how to juggle multiple clients and do it well and time block and all these things that on top of like being a leader somewhere with all the challenges, now you have to figure out how to do that times 2 or 3 and different, different personalities. So all of that is like, it is something you have to get used to. It's very different, being fully like mindset one thing work and not here. There's different kind of like mindsets for different clients, different personalities. It is more challenging, you know what I mean? Like anyone who hasn't juggled multiple clients, it is something you have to get used to, and it's not for everyone. Some people can't do that kind of mental time shifting. And then the biggest challenge is finding, because fractional is still so new. And I know in the UK and in Europe, even in the US, it's not as prevalent as we would like it to be. Outside of US, even less so. It's still something that, that's why I created fractionaldefine.com. That's why we're founding the FLA, which is the Fractional Leadership Alliance, which is going to be the global association for fractionals, like we're doing what we can to help spread awareness, but change takes time, right? Like we're not there yet. So right now, it's really hard finding the work.
Mm, mm,
You know, there is one fractionaljobs.io is the one job board, and Taylor Crane is great. And but you know, everybody is facing the same challenge
yeah.
about like the 98% of the people who need us don't know we exist.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Because they will benefit of having part-time people rather than full-time people and save money, right?
Yeah,
But it's
that's
still challenging to meet both. It's like demand and supply, and
oh
then
yeah.
they don't meet each other. The demand side is here, the supply here, and then there's nothing in the middle to meet to match. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the biggest challenge. So if you're considering going into fractional, I would say, you know, if you have a job, keep it. Like start planting the seeds while you still have income because it's gonna take time.
Mm.
If you're in transition, don't only focus on, you know, like we all have bills to pay, right? Don't only focus on fractional. You
Mm.
know, if something else, like whether it's consulting or whatever comes your way, project work, it doesn't matter. We have bills to pay, and the more runway you have, the more selective you can be.
Mm.
Um, and it's basically it's who you know. Like that is the only way to find the work is like
Yes.
through business development and networking, and let the people you know, previous employers, previous clients, friends, colleagues know that this is what you're looking for. And
Mm.
also be very specific, you know, niche down, like really have a memorable, specific, uh ICP, you know, like who is your
Yeah.
target, right? Like,
Ideal client, yes.
yeah, ideal client profile, yes.
Yeah, so that's very useful to know actually, and to know the landscape. So if some people fancy the idea of being fractional, understanding the pros and the cons, what actually they will face is very useful, and then how they can prepare. How many have you seen anybody have the number of fractional, the maximum number of fractional somebody has, you've seen the maximum? Have you seen
You mean
somebody having
clients?
five, more than five at a time?
You mean clients?
Yes.
So the CMOs and the CFOs can have many more than that because they have, I forget what there was one who mentioned this in the community, and like I remember it was it felt like a crazy amount. Like it was over 10, and I was like, wow. But if you think about it, CMOs and CFO, especially CFOs, they come in, they're not necessarily doing things every day, right? Or, you know, some CFOs basically check in once a month because there's an accountant and a bookkeeper doing the work, right? And the CFO is there like high level, looking at the, you know, the P&Ls and balance sheets and just statements once a month and like troubleshooting and doing quarterly planning. So and you know, so for things like that, it makes sense that they can do many clients, right? Because they're not engaged daily. For a COO, like I'm running the business, the max I've had, and that was like way too much, was 6. But that's because I have this like 3-2-1 model where like in the beginning I'm more, you know, it's like up to 15 hours because I have to understand and learn. And then it's like up to 10 hours for most of the time. And then I go on maintenance of up to 5 hours a week, right? So I can have like one at the 3 stage, maybe 1 or 2 at the 2 stage, and I can have 2 or 3 at the maintenance stage because things are running smoothly. And I'm just like checking in with the team, you know, troubleshooting, whatever. So for me, I can do 5 or 6 if it's in the right stages, but it's still challenging and not easy, right? More than that, like so it's variable depending on your function.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose. And, yes, when you say 10, I say, wow, 10, but I can definitely understand why for a CFO, it doesn't require perhaps to go through a full, blown strategy and, spending a lot of time, figure things out, because especially when the accounts are almost like the same thing that you do,
Yeah.
that can be quite streamlined. And also, I understand the niching idea, where if you actually are specialized in one sector or one place, you can actually have more clients than if you go through a totally new sector and then another one and then another one. You have to learn a lot. And then, of course, that will
Yeah.
take a lot of your energy. So definitely understand why, in this case, very useful to streamline, so you can just leverage on your processes, right?
Yeah. And also we're not, like the whole concept of fractional is that we're not doing the execution. We're doing
Yeah,
the leadership and strategy.
yeah.
So if you have the right people reporting to you, right? Like that's why I eventually can be on maintenance, because when the right people and systems are in place, it's just a matter about troubleshooting and checking in and leading. It's not like the doing.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. That's very, very useful. So tell me now, how difficult or easy was it to move from your usual role of COO, which usually is like getting things done, putting your feet to the ground, to now to the dynamo type of head in the cloud, taking risk and all those things. The energy sometimes are quite different, right? How easy was it for you to to get to this?
Not easy. And I'm still learning. It's very different being a founder, CEO than it is a CEO. I'm used to being, behind the scenes, like you
Yeah,
said, getting things done
yeah.
rather than the face of anything or voice of
Mm-hmm,
anything. And I'm
mm-hmm.
an introvert. So
Yeah.
I've had I've had to be careful, and I nearly burned myself out like in the early days of the community, meeting with everybody. Like I used to meet with any member or potential member. Like I would get on Zoom. So I was doing like 8 to 10 Zooms a day, every day.
Ooh.
And there was literally a Friday where like middle of the day, I just hit a wall. I couldn't even think anymore. Like my poor husband, my poor son, I couldn't talk to anyone. Like I just shut everything down and went to watch some like brainless TV because I could not think. And so I've gotten a lot more careful. Like async is my default. I time block, I limit meetings. But more than that, I've also, honestly, on the one hand, I joke that it's cool that I'm my own boss. Like I can decide things, right? But on the other hand, community is also a very different kind of business, right? And to some degree, I almost have like 11,000 bosses, right? Because you have to listen to the members. Not like you have to listen, you have to
Yeah.
pay attention to the members and, see patterns and weigh what they want, because you want them to feel that they're heard, but you are the one who has the overall picture and, understand how things fit in.
Mm.
But it's been interesting. I've never been a founder before. I've never run a community before.
Mhm.
When I realized that I was going to do this, I talked to a bunch of like the community founders and managers of communities I belong to try to like learn as much as possible. And I'm still learning, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
There are days that, and I hate social media. I have to
Yeah.
be on there all the time as the founder. And I seriously, like, there are days that I'm like, why? Why can't I just do the work? I don't want to do all of this. I just want to do the work. Leave me alone.
So I can feel your pain, because there is a tool that I use called Talent Dynamics, and then there are like four type of energy. You have like this tempo energy, which is like CEO type of energy. People who are on the ground just wanted to do what they wanted to do and getting things done, right?
Yep.
And then there is this dynamo energy, which is the total opposite of this tempo energy, who has the head in the cloud, take risks, have to run fast. And also, after you have the blaze energy, people love people, the extroverts and all those things. So you are actually, in a way, fulfilling the role that is not the most naturally to you, but you are doing it well because you're a leader. So you know how to do it, but it's not your natural energy. Therefore, it's always going to feel a bit draining, like not wanting to be on social media. Get somebody who is on blaze energy. The person will love to be on social media and not doing anything on the ground, not getting anything done, but being on social media all day long because this is their energy. So you need to find that way of, yes, balancing that sometime, and perhaps getting also some support to support your natural energy, still do most of the thing that is your natural energy to the ground. And then, of course, it doesn't mean we all have all those four energy, but it's just like what is natural to us that we love, spending most of the time. So I can definitely feel your pain.
Well, luckily, so, I do have a small team that helps support
That's
me.
really useful. Imagine if you were just by yourself.
No. We are now a team of 4 in addition to me.
Oh.
And, Tammy was the first hire. She's our community lead, and she's amazing. And she has a community background, which is what I was looking for. Will is our head of partnership. He and I had known each other for years and had wanted an opportunity to work together. And he's the extrovert and the salesperson.
Yep.
I'm not.
Definitely head of partnership. Definitely need to be extrovert.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember the first, I sat on one sales call with him. And afterwards, I'm like, I should never sell again. The ease and joy he brings to it. And for me, it's like, pushing it uphill. I'm like, nope, it's all yours.
That's so fun. That's good. So tell me, what do you believe are the qualities that somebody has to bring to become a very good fractional leader? Is there some quality that you've noticed that, the most successful fractional leaders bring?
Well, I think, I think it's worth looking at it from two lenses. Like one, succeed in like finding the work is different than succeeding on the job, right?
Yeah.
Finding the work we talked about is challenging, and it's challenging for most fractionals that are not natural networkers, right? Anyone who even some of the like CMOs and salespeople find it challenging to sell themselves, right? Like that's a different kind of skill. So it's something that unless you're used to constantly doing business development and networking, which most of us didn't do on as full-time employees, that is a challenge. So let's put that aside, because I would say 95% of fractionals find that challenging regardless. To be good at the job, on the job, to be successful fractional once you have the work. First of all, I strongly believe you had to have the job full time. It's really, and I don't think that fractional is only for C-level. Like it's a senior leadership, right? So whether director, VP, but you can't do it well part-time if you haven't already done it well full-time. Like that's just common sense to me. You have to have the experience, like, and it's not the time to give yourself a promotion, right? Like, and unfortunately, I have seen this happen. Because fractional is popular, people are just sticking it on their profiles on LinkedIn. And like the one thing we vet for in the community is senior leadership. So you're either a current fractional or you're senior leader considering or aspiring to be fractional. And I remember someone applied to join the community who was like junior mid-level and decided to call herself a fractional CHRO. And I'm like, what? What?
Some people have a lot of confidence.
That's why I'm saying it.
Yes,
So you have to
I've
have
seen
that.
some platform also promoting quite a lot of copywriters to, training them to become CMOs, fractional CMOs and all those things. And I thought, really, if you haven't have a organizational background and the only thing you've been doing is just copywriting, how on earth are you going to become, understanding the whole dynamic on our organization?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so you need to have a look at, or perhaps there may be like a school in the future of, like you go, I have a master degree in organization consulting and change management. Perhaps you get a school, the school of the school of fractional C, and then actually you kind of get a little bit, understanding of what it look like. But if you don't have a clear understanding of what an organization is, it's going to be very tough, right?
There are already like Voyager U and some other programs
Mm.
educating fractionals, but that's on the business of being fractional, right? Of finding the work, of
Yeah,
networking, of what it means to be fractional.
yeah.
I don't think even if you have an MBA, like I honestly,
Mm,
you can't like there are programs out there to be a COO, but
mm,
this is stuff you have to learn on the job.
mm.
Like if anyone who has led a team, who has had a difficult employee, who has had to like you can't like you only learn so much by reading and like going case studies, and you have to do the work.
Mhm.
Like we can do the thing we do at a fraction of the time because we've been around the block. We
Yeah,
have the experience. We understand the things to ask, the things to look out for, the things that really matter, and how to be effective. You can learn, like you and I both love books, but there are some things a book can teach you. You got
yeah,
to actually do.
yeah. You can't learn how to ride the bike by reading a book.
Exactly.
You're going to
Exactly.
fall very, very many times, definitely.
Yeah. This requires experience.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about, your work as a workflow optimization queen. What are some of the key strategies that you may, be, briefly telling people who are looking to scale if, right now. So where can they go to find, or how do you advise or help people in this kind of workflow optimization?
So I actually offer three different services that are kind of a continuum. And the last one I actually just rolled out. So I haven't even really promoted it that much yet. So I'm starting to offer what I call an optimize hour,
Ooh.
which is basically where it's like literally in an hour or 30 minutes, whichever you choose. I ask a bunch of questions, and in the end, if it's the hour, you get like two actionable insights. If it's a half an hour, you get one actionable insight. So it's a quick targeted fix, right? I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next. So that's kind of like the quick fix, right? A sound bite, right? Um, then there's workflow consulting, which is a project work, right? Like basically that is focusing on, do you have too many tools? Do you have the right tools? Are your tools talking to each other, or is there a bunch of redundancy? Do you not know where to find things, right? All of that, like centralize, streamline, optimize. And then the last thing on the continuum is the fractional COO work, which is like long-term embedded leadership
Mhm,
support.
mhm,
So, whether you need the quick fix, or you
mhm,
need a project, or you
mhm,
need the long term,
mhm,
I now offer like all three.
mhm. How AI work helps you today to do this? Do you use a lot of AI? Not enough AI? How does it work?
So I'm big on automation. Like there's a bunch of automation on the back end of the community. I strongly believe in, I've always believed in like automation, right? Like if you either like outsource, delegate, or automate as much as you can. I do use AI mostly for when it's sometimes like copy that I can't think of, like I
Mm.
use Claude is the best for anything
Really?
creative, copy wise.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For research, I use Perplexity. I go to
Okay.
Perplexity instead of Google these days
Yeah.
because it
Both.
gives you
Yeah. Yeah. The Google side and the ChatGPT side.
yeah, it gives you sources unlike the others, so that's good. And
Mhm.
then I've got a bunch of like custom chat GPTs, just to like for other specific things, like for instance, I created one that I taught on the boilerplate for the front sponsorship template, right? So anytime Will wants me to sign a contract, I will cut and paste it there and tell it to compare and give me any of the differences. So I don't have to read the fine line. It'll just highlight any of the differences and I can be like, okay, not okay, and quickly sign and move on. So there's like interesting little ways that, like I would never use it. Like I'm not going to give it access to anything without control. I don't think it's at the place. I don't trust it quite that far, but it's definitely a great like assistant,
Yes.
or drafter or researcher, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's very useful. Yes. So, but they both, all of them don't talk to each other. You use Claude for your creativity, perplexity, and your GPTs whenever you need them. Wonderful. So now let's talk about the last part, which is the 3M. In this podcast, which is all about meaningful work and meaningful life. I love talking about the three things: meaning, money, and movement. So let's say that you have £1 billion today. Before I get to the £1 billion, let's talk about the meaning first. So, what gives you meaning in life? Where do you get your inspiration from?
I love feeling like needed and useful, right? Like I love to build and optimize and also lead. So I think it's a combination of, like being a founder is great, right? Because I built something from the ground on my own. I keep improving on it. And, I love hearing from members that like I'm helping them and giving value, right? And that they're finding value there. Like I need to feel needed and useful. Actually, maybe too much so, because like whenever I'm bored, I'm like, okay, this is what do I do? Like I
Who
don't know how
needs
to be
me?
bored.
Who needs me? Yeah, I can definitely tell that the Slack, last time I look at the documentation you put together for Fractional United, and then I look at the slide, the code, I was just thinking only a CEO can put this thing together. Really, it is comprehensive. Everything is organized. My gosh, I was looking, I said, how long it took to put this thing. My gosh. And even in the Slack also, all the amount of content, that is unbelievable, really unbelievable. Thank you for that. You are definitely being useful to how many people are now? More than, 5,000 or even more. I think now, where are you now with the figures?
Almost at 11,000.
11,000. My gosh. What do you predict is going to be by the end of the year? 20,000?
We're growing on average of 600 a month. So,
Yeah.
so 15,000, 60
Wow.
maybe, I don't know.
Cool. Wonderful. So now let's go to the £1 billion, which is $1.3 billion. What would you do with that if you get that today? What would you do with that? And specifically, how would you spend your days?
I would still spend part of it on fun. I think I would probably start a nonprofit that helps. I love the idea of like, like all the accelerators out there. Like I would love to create like an accelerator for mission-driven, I don't know, people who, there's so many wonderful ideas out there, but it's hard to get a business off the ground, right? It's so hard. So I love the idea of like maybe one targeted towards like, I don't know, college students or get them when they're young and they're like full of life and mission and vision and ideas and like help them start it off, help them make it a reality. I don't know, something like that, where like I can use the money to not only make more money, but help people actually do something meaningful and give them the support to do that.
Yeah, that is wonderful. That is also one of my mission, giving money to startups, giving them some fund,
Yeah.
like some kind of patient capital where I don't have
Yeah.
to get it back. I can get it back in 20 years if they made some money. That's wonderful. And how would you spend your days then? Are you going to be on the beach and,
Uh,
oh.
no, I didn't I just say I need to be useful? I don't know how to be bored.
No beach,
No.
still
I-
going to work and having your hands in multiple pies and even more, right?
Well, honestly, it would be lovely not to have to worry about making ends meet, right? Like that would be nice. Like not having that pressure and like knowing that I have enough,
To cover
my
everything.
family's taken care of.
Yeah.
I can do as much or as little as I want.
Yep.
Having the support that if I want to take a week off, everything is running smoothly without me. But then I come back and I check in and keep things moving.
Cool. Sounds very good. So, and now how do you want to be remembered for?
I don't know. I guess with fractionals, maybe that I helped, me and a few others helped make this a reality. And that
Yeah.
everybody who wants to go fractional can go fractional, has
Mm-hmm.
the support that they need to do that.
Yeah, perhaps when in the future of work, in the future, this will become ubiquitous and normalized. They'll say, there was this woman called Karina Mikhli who started this movement, actually. Wonderful. So,
Yeah.
knowing what you know now, what is your parting advice for those looking to do meaningful work and live a meaningful life?
Pay attention to where life takes you. I would have never predicted this. And, some of the hard things that happened to me now make sense, right? If they hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be the person that I am, and I wouldn't have had the ability and skills to take this chance. Um, Everything happens for a reason, and just keep your eyes and mind open. Sometimes the bad things. So I can't remember the way she said it, but my son graduated from university over a year ago, and a speaker at his graduation said this beautifully, that sometimes life takes you the scenic path, and like pay attention to it, because some of the things you see on the scenic path and learn on the scenic path is what gives life meaning.
I love that. I love that scenic path, because sometimes we just forget. We forget to look on the path and enjoy that view and enjoy that scenes. And
Yeah.
yes, let's just enjoy that as we are reaching, and as you say, just take advantage of anything on the road, right? If there is some cherry, stop and pick the cherry and eat.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't just rush, rush, rush.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, how can people reach you and learn about you and your work, Karina?
The easiest ways are either at karinamikhli.com or on LinkedIn.
Okay, so that is wonderful. Thank you so, so much, Karina, for this really insightful conversation and the work that you're doing. Did you like this conversation? What was your key takeaway about this episode? So let me know in the comment below, and make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube so you don't miss any episodes. And to hear more incredible stories and get the show notes and other free resources, visit francinebeley.com/podcast. That's FranCineBeley.com/podcast. And I will see you next week for another episode of Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast. Until then, dream, act, and make an impact. Lots of love.